Category management is the standard process used by procurement professionals across most business sectors. It is the process taught at procurement school. This systematic approach is far less likely to be undermined by great personal relationships with the customer, so relationship selling as a method has become less effective than it used to be. Suppliers that most ably deal with professional buyers using category management are those that engage with this process as early as possible. The role of procurement is to capture value from the supply chain, its network or ecosystem. Some years ago, the primary method of achieving this was via the individual competence of professional buyers in respect of negotiation. A competent negotiator would more often than not secure better deals than a less competent one. It was the age of win-lose or zero-sum negotiating. And the game, as much as we could call it a game, was about whether each buyer was able to out-negotiate their respective supplier counterpart in sales. But really, it was a haphazard approach to procurement, despite the outstanding ability of many professionals who could demonstrate that negotiating competence. Procurement was becoming more complex and more important as spend percentages rose and outsourcing became fashionable. They developed an idea of best practice in procurement, and practitioners began informally benchmarking their practice with others in their own and other sectors. What emerged was the practice of strategic sourcing, a new, more systematic approach to investigating the supply market, negotiating and selecting suppliers, and many organizations across a wide range of sectors adopted strategic sourcing as their method. As this practice matured, it added the post-contract activities of contract management, performance management, and supplier relationship management, morphing into an end-to-end process, what we now know as category management. Let me explain what procurement means when practitioners refer to a category. You will recall this graphic from an earlier video in this series. It shows the typical company where around 70% of its revenues are spent in the supply chain. Procurement separates the spend into direct materials, that which goes into the company's end products, and indirect materials and services, those that are required to run business operations. You'll see some examples shortly. Imagine a passenger airplane manufacturer. Obviously, the financial numbers are far greater than in the example I've been using so far, but the principles are the same. There will be some split between direct and indirect, depending on the type of business it could be. 60-40, 70-30, 80-20, or some other combination. But sticking with the airplane manufacturer example, directs are segmented into a range of different categories. Only a few are represented here, and the number could run into the dozens. Here we see engines, interiors, flight controls, undercarriage, and the airframe itself. But this segmentation is too imprecise, and so procurement segments to the next level. We now see many more categories, each of which will have a specialist category manager. These are the professional buyers, and they'll be responsible for ensuring best value for money is achieved. Category segmentation can, and often does, go to a greater level of granularity into subcategories and then into even sub-subcategories. And the story is the same for indirects. Again, specialists are deployed to manage their portion of the procurement spend. This segmentation activity is called category planning and is usually refreshed every financial year when savings opportunities are sought as part of the budgeting process. And savings targets will be agreed between the CFO and the CPO and procurement's category managers. Team selection is also part of this process, as some categories will require a team effort to ensure progress. Stakeholders from other business functions will be part of those teams. Category planning forms the base activity of the category management process and is essentially a prioritization activity for the Chief Procurement Officer. From this, he or she can allocate resources to category projects across the procurement team.